night. What boy? Yeah, what boy? What boy? The sun is hot, the breeze is slow. I need a ride. Where do I go? Ride, go, yeah. That's the name. Island roads will never feel the same. Tap the app, just one click. Hopping fast, it's real quick. Ride, go. Where do you wanna go? To the beach, to the street, let the island flow. Oh, oh. Ride, go. The good vibe show, fastest growing ride. Everybody know. Oh, oh. Ride, go. Where do you wanna go? To the beach, to the street, let the island flow. Oh, oh. Ride, go. Let the good vibe show, fastest growing ride. Everybody know.
Where do you want to go?
Yeah. Ridealong Live, welcome to the ride. Welcome to Tuesday on the ride. How you guys doing? Yes, yes. I welcome all you inside my house, my dwelling place. Yeah? Welcome in, wipe your foot at the mat. Take out your shoes and come inside. My domain. How you guys doing, guys? We have a lot to talk about today, guys. Particularly, you know, Tuesday is what we designate and dedicate to you. It's what's pissing you off, right? What's stuck in your craw, what's hot in your heart. And that's what it is about today. In addition to what's pissing you off, my camera de low. Yeah, my camera de low because my real camera is there, but it ain't working, right? So I'm working with this one now. In fact, my camera dropped. My camera that's a front, it dropped. So that's why. Thank you for noticing Sherwin. So Shermin Bihari. See, my camera is very low. So I need a camera for Christmas. That's what I need. All right, so here's what I want to talk about today because this is really pissing me off. I've been thinking about this for the past couple of days, and I picked up the camera about 3 times to do a vlog on this. But I said, you know what? I'm going to leave it to Tuesday. Let me talk about it. Now, I don't know how much you guys have been paying attention to the election, the recent election in the Caribbean. First we had, well, I'm not going back as far as Guyana and Jamaica. I'm going to start with St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we just had yesterday, we didn't go live because we had the election of St. Lucia, right? Philip J. Pierre, congratulations. But here is what is pissing me off. I hate when you have political figures, right? Politicians that somehow feel, and whoever shoes or whoever the part it falls in, take it as it is, guys. So some politician I find, they somehow feel in their heart, right, that they are the only one, they are the only person, or their party is the only group of people that could run a country or a particular island, for that matter. Why? And they would destroy their legacy. They would destroy all the work that they put in to demean, to try to assault democracy for their own personal gain. I watched the recent election there in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I must say, even before I say that, let me say this, that the former Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a person, an individual that I respect a lot. I followed him for many, many years, I sort of liked his politics, and I thought that he was doing good by the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Although sometimes I do some meme and stuff like that, I never mean to disrespect him in any way. So he was someone that I looked up as a figure in the Caribbean, a grandfather in the political arena. Although there was a lot of things people used to say about him, right? I never disrespected him. I never disrespected him in any one of my videos. I don't really disrespect anybody anyway, so it's not like I disrespect people. I choose not to disrespect him. That's not my modus operandi. I don't disrespect people. But I watch Honorable Ralph Gonsalves diminish his respect and all the hard work that he put in by the last statement that he made, or the last presentation that he made. Because when you look back at what he said, not once did he come out and congratulate the new administration. He called them a regime. And he came across as if his political party, or that political party, was the only political party in the whole of St. Vincent that could rule, that could run St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The people rejected him. The people overwhelmingly rejected him. And he still didn't get it. Like even going through the process, like he didn't see the writing on the wall, or he failed to see the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall was all over the place. We did polls, everybody did polls, and they were saying that he's going to lose. He just could not bring it to his surface to see that this was the feeling on the ground. And I'm not even on the ground, and I know how it was feeling on the ground. And I think that he did a lot of damage to his reputation as a former prime minister. And what he said in that statement to the nation came across as someone, to me, came across as someone that, he was all about himself. It was all about him. It was all about him getting 5 more years. It was all about him winning 6 consecutive elections. It was all about him. And I lost a lot of respect for him as a leader, just because of what he said in that last statement to the nation there. He couldn't accept it. He couldn't accept it. When you go into an election, you won so much times. You won. You had to think at some point in time you would lose, and you had to prepare for it. You had to prepare for it. And sometimes you have to tell yourself, you know what, I did as best that I could have done for the time that I was given. You were given 25 years, right? You was given 25 years. And all that he have done, come down to one thing. No, people are going to remember him for saying about lift me up and begging for people to vote for him. That is what is going to go in his repertoire. That's what people would remember him by, saying this, begging for people to vote for him, begging for the support, asking people to lift him up. They ain't going to remember Argyle International Airport. They ain't going to remember all the ports. They're not going to remember none of that stuff. That is what is going to live with him forever. He did a lot of damage. And that's what pisses me about our Caribbean politicians. Sometimes we don't know when to give up. We don't know when to get off the stage. We want to sing and dance forever. Big up PJ Patterson. And as much as some people hate Keith Rowley of Trinidad and Tobago, you still have to give him props. He didn't go through an election and lose. He saw the writing on the wall and he resigned. PJ Patterson of Jamaica years ago did the same thing. So big them up. And sometimes when you don't want to retire, you don't feel like you want to retire, although everything telling you that you should retire, sometimes it's the people that would retire you. Anyway, big up to the people, family of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The legacy, his legacy. is damaged critically. You know what I mean? So I hope that we are breathing a new era of politics in the Caribbean where the new leaders are thinking about one, that this is not about you. It's not about me and give me this and give me that and lift me up. It's about lifting up the people. I hope we breathe in a new era of politicians that first look out for the people. That's what I hope. Yesterday election, we had overwhelming victory. Honorable Philip J. Pierre, he was brought back in as Prime Minister of St. Lucia. And the writing was on the wall. We knew the kind of support that he was getting throughout. He's a popular leader on the ground, and I think he would do well. The opposition leader, Chaz, it might be sent into retirement after only winning one seat. One seat. It will take a while for his party to regain, and I hope when the party regains itself, that they will have some new, fresh people, especially at the helm of the political party. So, this is what's pissing me off. Some Caribbean leaders not knowing when to give up. It's time. And it's not about you, it's about the people. You need to lift up the people and know when to step aside. All right? Speaking about politics. Speaking about politics here, we have a young and vibrant MP here with us on the ride, Honorable Ron Redhead.
Yeah.
Honorable MP, how you doing, sir?
Well, not too bad, I'm just there taking in what is pissing you off, what is pissing off some other Grenadians, and just listening to everybody else.
Yeah. I've been looking at it, and as I said, Ralph is someone. I mean, there was a lot of things I really respected him for. I remember going to St. Vincent a couple times, and it was a small airport, and then they got the Argyle International Airport. You got to give him kudos for that. You can't
I think honestly, under his leadership, I mean, regardless of how it ended, all right?
Right.
And we all saw that a few days ago. But under his leadership, there were significant advancements that were made. And in the context of small island and quote unquote Caribbean nations, most Caribbean nations do have what is considered to be the citizenship by investment programs,
Right.
which help to do a lot of things. And to see that he was able to do all of this without it, it's a significant achievement. And he must be given kudos for his efforts and some of the things that he did. But as you said, that's the nature of politics. You win some, you lose some. Certainly, where we sit, I can speak for the National Democratic Congress in this. It is always important to learn lessons. And, as one of the black leaders of the world would say, when you see men fall, don't laugh, learn.
True.
And I think the most important lesson out of all of this is succession planning, making accommodation for your own, I would say, term limit, imposing that on yourself so that you know when to, as you said, stop dancing and when to bow. But all in all, we in the National Democratic Congress, we commend the NDP, National Democratic Party of St. Vincent, and Dr. Godwin Friday, Honorable Dr. Godwin Friday, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and Grenadines, Honorable Rav Gonzalez, who I am certain will be sworn in as opposition leader. We certainly send kudos to you. We stand in solidarity because the NDC is sister party to the ULP. And we respect the decision, certainly, of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and would just wish them as a nation all their very best.
Yeah, absolutely. What are the lessons when you look at St. Lucia? Let's take a look at St. Lucia. That was yesterday. When you look at the final results of yesterday, what are some of the takeaways? What are some of the things that notes that NDC is taking from
Well,
yesterday's election?
right. Certainly understanding that every Caribbean island has their own unique challenges, circumstances as well. But generally, Caribbean politics throughout, and I heard you mention Guyana. Now, as Prime Minister just said on his program earlier on, this year in particular has been a record breaking year for the amount of elections in the Caribbean.
Yes. Yes.
I don't think there is any other period in our history where we've had so many, in modern history, we've had so many general elections across the board being held in a given year. And so there are many lessons that we can look at throughout the region, stemming from Belize, the by-election in, I think, Bahamas, the general election in Guyana, Jamaica, St. Vincent, and as you mentioned, St. Lucia. Of course, there are more, and certainly more to come. But St. Lucia in particular, the lesson is pretty much that yellow may not be the code in every island.
Right.
that's that's the first lesson I think we can take away. But in total, just looking at the situation and understanding it, as I mentioned, every Caribbean island has unique challenges and circumstances.
Right.
And the lesson is at the end of the day, political parties will rise and will fall, but just do what you have to do.
I know we're going to be speaking about the budget, but I want to get a holistic view on yesterday's election in particular.
Right.
Do you think that the UWP of Alan Chasney will rebound with him as a leader? What's your vision? What's your thoughts? What's your feeling
From
about it?
from a political standpoint, barring the fact that I am from a different island, but from a
Right.
political standpoint, I think the party needs to do some deep introspection there. They need to analyze, and it's not just him. The deputy leader of the party as well, Mr. Guy Joseph, he also suffered consecutive defeat and is demonstrating essentially that the leadership of the UWP in St. Lucia in its entirety seem to be falling apart at the senior level. My humble opinion, it's a lesson for Caribbean parties that you can be the prime minister maybe 2 terms ago, but you can lose consecutively if party renewal, if they make the structure and the individual is not the right fit for carrying a team, because one always need to look at general elections in the Caribbean as twofold. One, people vote based on who becomes the prime minister, essentially, in the Caribbean. And the other aspect to it is that people will be interested to vote against a candidate if he or she is really, really badly off and there's a national swing away from that political organization that the member of parliament at the given time is holding. And so you always need to be observant and be on your P's and Q's. It's not just about calling the election, because I think too often people rely on hype and momentum to get them across the rope, when in truth and in fact, voters throughout the Caribbean, they've become a lot better informed. They have access to a lot more information. Social media, as you know, plays a pivotal role in terms of disseminating and also, in a sense, helping to shape narratives and perspectives and very critical perception. Because in politics, I believe that perception is reality. Reality may be, for example, Junior, that
Right.
you may be the better candidate to win. But the perception is people say, well, that man there with a beard, that
Yeah.
man could win the seat and he could win the thing. So once that perception takes root, then it's very difficult to stop. And so we have been looking and observing, the region in terms of where it is going. You have other elections due as well, Dominica, Barbados, Grenada in due course. Of course, we are due constitutionally in 2027. That's when the time would be to call the general elections based on the constitution. And so we ultimately we look forward to that. Political parties in the Caribbean also struggle with something which is funding to be able to pay for stuff. And you've heard repeated calls throughout the Caribbean to talk about campaign financing legislations, to disclose, to probably put an actual figure as our limit as to what you can spend. Because you heard yesterday in St. Lucia, as we were speaking to that, where there was the allegations of someone, an Indo agent, attempting to bribe voters
Right.
to vote for a particular candidate. And so these are always very important concerns and continues to highlight when the OAS completes its mission in any given country, the calls for campaign finance legislation.
Yeah, that's a big one. What about term limits? Because I know we had term limits in our referendum, and it failed, right? Do you think that they should have a next or something to deal with term limits, especially with leaders throughout the region?
Right. It's a very important question. Of course, I don't want to just say it. You have Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, the longest consecutively
Yeah.
serving prime minister. You also have Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, and you have other leaders who are on the verge once they win consecutive in terms of the terms that could break that barrier, reach that limit, etc. And so it is always difficult to say from a Caribbean context. Now, in the US, there is good reasons to have term limits in terms of managing democracy
Right.
and ensuring that you always have renewal, whether certainly not voluntarily, but based on the Constitution. So US has that system. But in the Caribbean, it's still always difficult because the question one would ask, if a prime minister is performing, why should they go? But ultimately, I think what term limits would do is to force leaders to perform. And if you believe that you either can continue winning either by luck or doing the right things or cheating, you know, consistently, chances are you might become complacent. And
Right.
then your political party may benefit of you, let's say, winning all 15 seats in Grenada's context, etc. But the people would not be any better off because the level of service that you are given is always diminished because you are confident that you're going to win anyhow, and therefore you're not interested to improve yourself, you're not interested to govern with respect, transparency, accountability, etc. And so once you do not have that self-imposition of term
Right.
limits in your mind, that also plays a very critical role. For example, Honorable Prime Minister mentioned in one of his earlier conversations about that is that after a certain period,
Right.
there's really not any much more you can do as a leader.
True.
You no longer, command the authority, the inspire, the inspiration, and so on. So you need to organize yourself as an individual. When I look at politics in the Caribbean, whether it is for the leaders, members of parliament, or people who contribute at different levels, even within the structure of the political party, you need to tell yourself, because it's one thing if you could keep winning, but you need to tell yourself, when do you stop and either hand over the baton or make a transition that could really improve? Because the best way to determine how good your leadership was is how many people you have built up into leaders
Yes.
and
True.
how good of a system you left behind.
Yes.
That's way.
Yes.
So
It's just
that's
like
why
it's just like a business or business owner.
yeah.
I see success of my business when I could go on vacation and the business could run.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that is success. That is like, yeah, you did your job. You train people, you lift people up, you move them in higher managemental positions,
Yes.
and you could say, you know what? I could step away for a bit and it will operate,
Yeah.
regardless of if you're there manning the fort or not. That is success. And I think leaders are supposed to be able to think like that. So succession
Yes.
planning, that's supposed to be the primary goal of putting it together, I think.
And transformational leaders, if we were to just dissect, I know we are here to speak about the budget, but
Yeah.
really all of this is in context and lays the basis for conversations about national budgets. But transformational leaders really do not see competition within an organization as a threat. In
Right.
fact, they will be willing to encourage it because every individual has some kind of built-in, good about them. While there may be some pros and cons with everybody, but your ability to utilize the good in them to advance the organization is probably the most important element that you need to single out over anything else, and which would allow you to succeed ultimately. Because no man is an island, and no
True.
matter how good you are as an individual, everybody needs some kind of support system or mechanism to be able to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, you're watching Right Along Live, and we're talking here with Honorable MP Ron Redhead. Just a preamble a bit on the regional politics. So let's hit home a little bit. We just saw yesterday the presentation of the 2026 expenditure budget speech, and there are a few things that I want to kind of dive in, do a deep dive on here today, right? I want to start with tourism because I'm very, very, very interested in tourism. I don't know how much of you guys been paying attention, but I personally did some major investment in the tourism product simply because I took a cruise about a few years ago. And while going on that cruise, and we went to Bonaire, Aruba, all these islands, I was continuously interrogating the folks on the cruise ship. How do you like this island? How do you like that island? And when we came to Grenada, I came back and I asked them the same question. How do you like Grenada? And one of the things that I was getting was that they were saying, I love Grenada. Grenada is beautiful, just not enough stuff to do. So I made it my life duty to put so much things to do, right? As you can see, I'm working overtime, right? I'm even driving tuk-tuk now. I'm doing so much stuff so that nobody that comes into Grenada could ever have the excuse in saying that there's not much stuff to do. So I want to look at tourism because I think it is growing and I'm very excited about the prospect of tourism. Tell us about the tourism allocation in this year's budget, next
Sure,
year's
no
budget.
problem. And just by way of information, as you know, Senator Adrian Thomas is minister, and he would be presenting at a later date, sometime next week, in
Right.
terms of the ministry and the focus for
Yes.
2026 and beyond. But the allocation for tourism is around $53.1 million
Yes.
that was allocated through the budget. The expectations is that we are not just seeing tourism as this issue of people coming in, but we need to understand how everything links to tourism. So I want to spend some time talking through about that. And take, for example, Carriacou. The completion of night landing is the single most transformative element to the economy of Carriacou and Petit Martinique in a very long time. But what that will do is because Carriacou already is rich with its traditional culture, it's going to have the type of impact to be able to, in future, and not right away, because we have to be realistic at times. So when we
Right.
do this night landing, it will not instantly transform every single thing. There's a process that we'll have to go through. But it will allow for Carriacou, Petit Martinique, to be able to do a lot more planning
Right.
and benefit. So, for example, they would be able to have a stronger, economic base because they can attract now hotels. They can attract now more business investment because this element of night travel is being rectified for a very long time, and it will add. And when you talk about the tourism sector, it is not just about the arrivals and so on, because we have to understand too, if we say tourism is everybody's business, if that is everybody's business, everybody must in some kind of way be able to benefit, impact
Right.
and feel the tourism sector to be able to make it work. And so one of the things that we are doing differently in this upcoming budget is to almost empower, community tourism projects,
Yes.
understanding that we do not only have to look at tourism, as I mentioned, with the airlines and arrivals and so on, and stay over visitors, etc. That has its place and it is well incorporated into the budget. But we need to begin to look at diversifying how the tourism sector operates so that if there is some kind of unpredictable drop in the numbers that are coming in, that we do have the ability to refocus the tourism sector to still generate the kinds of revenues that we want. And one key linkage is with the agricultural sector or another one. That is important because we need to find means and ways to get farmers involved in tourism as well. And then when we talk community tourism, the ability for Grenada to have new tourist sites. It was mentioned by the Minister of Finance. Again, you're going to hear more discussions by Senator Adrian Thomas on this when he is giving his presentation for the Senate, the upper house budget debates. So look forward to that. But something I think we need to talk through, and you made mention about it, this issue about Grenada's ability to do things. Let's take, for example, nightlife. You're someone who's invested in the transport sector in the country, and that investment is through Ridealong, right?
Yes.
And you, I am certain, could understand the limits, the challenges that we have in terms of being able to have a sustained flow of public transport that could be able to have this nightlife ongoing activities. So when the tourists come, they don't have to run back by 6 o'clock on the boat because you have nothing to do on a Wednesday or a Monday and so on. And if they happen to come in and around Friday, then they could be able to go to Junction, go to some other place other than just walking around town and looking at the spices. And so we as a nation, when we talk, this budget is within the context of Vision 75. When we talk about where we need to go, these are some of the things that we need to, call for greater investments in and be able to do. And so the budget begins to address things like that. And it's critical to understanding, first and foremost, where we are, what we met 3 years ago, and where we need to take the tourism sector. So, as said and as mentioned, we look forward to the debates from the minister himself and to hear some of the exciting plans as to how we're going to go forward. But the speech by the Minister of Finance essentially spoke to the changing of the approach, so to speak, with tourism.
Yeah, and again, the allocation for the Ministry of Tourism, Creative Economy and Culture is $53.1 million. And I have to commend Senator Adrian Thomas, Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy and Culture. I think his focus and the focus of the ministry dealing with community tourism specifically is the way to go. Is the way to go, because overwhelmingly when we go out there, and I spent 2 years and of my own investment coming in with the e-bikes and all these things. When we go to these communities and we bring 15, 20 people, say we just have 10 people that we ride in with, and we go to the local shop, sometimes we spend $300 and $400 and $500
Exactly.
in those shops in St. David, in St. Andrew, in St. Patrick. And we spend in, because they stop there, they drink something, they stop there, they buy something, they buy roti, and that is the way. So if we empower one local shop in every community with $500-600. Just think about the
Enough
recurring
impact.
it's community tourism. So
And,
that
and that's correct because we also have the heroes pack, right? And
yeah
so I think we need to, as I said, really dive into what are the elements that is going to work for small island states like Grenada when it comes to tourism. We understand the issue with ensuring we have the amount of room stock. We understand the issue, or the need rather, to have the necessary room stock to be able to have airlines coming in and out of Grenada. We understand all of that. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, people would say tourism and construction is growing the economy, but some people would still criticize to say, well, I ain't getting that dollar from tourism that I should actually be getting. And this
right
is where community tourism is going to be able to extract that dollar and have the ordinary man, as you say, the shopkeepers and so on. So we are
yes
doing more of that in terms of cleaning up sites and so on, getting them ready, preparation. And this takes a national approach
yeah
because one may argue that we somewhat have a tourism belt going up through St. George Northeast back to 1910, etc. But we want to see tourism beyond just Granny Tang and so on. And for that to happen, we need to plan out how the various sites are going to look. What are the things we need to do? How many official waterfalls does Grenada have at this given moment? Because,
yes
just the other day, they discovered a new one and that sort of thing. And so how do we incorporate all of this in a national tourism plan to take
yes
us to where we need to be?
no it's a great idea and I'm happy that that's the focus and the tourism belt as we call the tourism belt. I think that we need to change that idea. Let me show you this picture right here, Minister. Where you know where this place is?
Let me have a look.
Hold on, it's process. You know where this place is?
Um, boy, I on national programming. I ain't go lie.
You need to
I
go.
ain't think that's true.
Let me tell you something, Dan. That's why we're talking about community tourism.
Right.
This is in St. David.
Oh, nice. I didn't even know that exists.
This is in St. David. And we took about, I think about 12, not 12, so 6 and 4, 10, 14. We took 14 visitors from Sandals to this area there. And they love it. You know the first question they was asking? How do they purchase property and land? Community tourism. They wasn't exposed to this. They
Right.
wasn't exposed to this.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. I love the idea of community tourism. I think it's a great idea to incorporate that. And just the vision of community tourism is a magnificent idea. All right. I want to talk now about the unemployment. Unemployment fell to 7.5%.
Yes.
What could you tell us? What more could you tell us about that?
Right. So it's a good situation that is emerging. The Ministry of Economic Development is the ministry with the numbers. The Honorable Lennox Andrews will be dissecting them on Thursday coming, where we would go through all of the numbers, what it means, how the economy is going, etc., etc. But essentially, the unemployment situation in Grenada is improving, meaning it's going down and more people are becoming employed. And it's important to have the discussion around, you know, what, let's go even further because the unemployed are people actively seeking work and can't find work.
Yeah.
Now, if that is reducing, one has to ask the question, where are the jobs being created? Where are they coming from?
Yes.
At this point, the construction sector is in dire need of the injection, possibly, of labor, right? And to be able to meet deadlines, to do anything within a particular schedule, you almost need to ensure that you have extremely efficient workers, people who are not going to go by the block the day before, drink a rum, and then come on the work and expect to have and build a straight line with a row
Right.
of blocks. And so you almost have to reimagine the workforce in the construction sector to be able to take it to the level it has to be. And this is backed by many economists, accountants, people who understand from a national perspective what is going on. But I also want to be able to dissect and get into, do not underestimate the support of small businesses, startups, registering, and so on.
Yes.
Because it means now, whereas I would be looking for a work from some sort of establishment, I am now creating my own business and I am
Absolutely.
now employing myself, right?
Absolutely.
And I'll give you an example. In my constituency, for example, St. George Northeast, a lot of young men, they would come, either they want advice, they want help with a weed a blower, a power wash, that sort of thing. Now, maybe we're not advertising that a lot because we don't have much resources. Whenever we get, we can help. But,
Right.
when they come, I often always have the conversation with them on two fronts. One, you need to have a plan. And I'm not talking about some elaborate plan that talking about economies at scale and mass profit and all these other things. The plan is simple. If the government of Grenada gives you this visa, how can you use that to be able to empower yourself, in a sense, give back to your community? Because this is something I always ask of some of them. If Tanti Mary need her gap cut, please, we're giving you a weed eater. But if you could get the chance and you need the gas, we support you with that, cut it for us, please. So we always do that. But how can you sit down in your context? You're not medium size, small business, you're just trying to use a skill to make an earn. How can you sit down and put a plan together that could work for you? And one such way I always advise them, first off, register your business. It's a landscaping company you're forming, you have to prepare for big things, even though you're starting small. And secondly, find a way, because you're not a supermarket, so you can't get no walk-in customer and that kind of thing. So you won't see people tripping over to come to you when there are established businesses and so on already in the field, because a lot of people doing landscaping. So find a way to build clientele or clients where you give them a service, they happy with it, they keep you, right? And that requires some measure of discipline as well. But when you do that now, if you get, let's say, 3 clients, and once every month you have to cut their yards, and they're charging you $1,000 because you may have different thing, hedges, different things, trim, etc. So those 3 clients, your income for the month is $3,000 by just doing these three properties. What you can then do is to say, with the same plan, simple plan, not a big elaborate thing,
Right.
take that same plan and say, out of that 3,000 that you're getting monthly, you're going to be devoting at least 1,005 out of that. And of course, you have bills to pay, because we have to be realistic. I ain't
Yes.
expect you to say all of that is profit. You have to pay a bill. Some people have children, they have a mind, etc. They have things to do. And so, but you find a way to take back some money that you're getting to invest. That is the discipline or the lack
Yes.
thereof that has caused either the make or break of these little businesses. But take that money now, invest, 1,005 back into the business and buy another weed eater. With that, you could hire somebody on a part-time basis and you could get more contracts. So you're increasing your potential to earn there if you're serious. So this is what I always try to talk to some of the young men about, because it's not just all fun and games when you come to the MP. I cool with everybody, but sometimes you got to be serious.
Yes.
And if you need help, for me to help you, you have to be willing to receive the help too. You have to want it. And so when we talk about unemployment, we're really discussing too about people becoming more productive, as
Yes.
opposed to just saying, well, the government had to give me work. And it also speaks, Junior, to the good management of the economy that the government is engaged with. And we want to say kudos to the Ministry of Finance. I think they're doing an excellent job. The reason why unemployment is falling and you are seeing an increase in the GDP, an increase in construction and economic activities, both from a private and public sector standpoint, is because the government of Grenada is helping to create the enabling environment. People have greater confidence to invest. So one sure thing, I would say, is that right now, all the people complain about the road this and the road that, and this bridge need to fix and so on. Junior, Grenada is under construction.
Right.
National Democratic Congress has been managing the economy well, is creating the enabling environment, and now is the time a lot of people want to invest in the country. And we should allow that investment to take place because it is going to help us to be able to benefit from that economic activity and see that economic boom that is required to take us to where we need to be.
Absolutely. And someone was asking earlier, after I showed the picture, someone was asking, where is that location? Where is that place? So this is in Providence, right? That's in Providence, St. David. It's probably one of the best sites. So if you guys go and check it out, and I see Ali George say that she have enough land to sell in St. David. Now that she putting up she gate and thing, and then the price just go up. So guys, this if you guys haven't been to that spot, give us a call and let me just drive you there, let you experience it. It is an amazing location. It is just straight through it. It's just really nice, a nice space in Providence, St. David. All right, so that's a promo for Ali because she says she's selling land down there too. I want to talk about agriculture.
Right.
Right, and the investment in the budget for agriculture. Because you could always tell how serious our administration is based on how the investment goes to agriculture. Because I feed in yourself, feeding people, and
Right.
also empowering. What's the
Right.
investment for agriculture?
Right. So it is at 40.5 million, as announced by Finance Minister. And again, that ministry is doing a number of good things. And it is essentially planting the seed, Junior, to have Grenada be able to grow in the direction that it has to be, especially as it relates to food security, among other things. And I would just probably highlight a few areas. Already, we have started the construction of the first national hatchery, right? That is to be able to bolster Grenada's ability to provide poultry, right? The expectation is that we are going to have a public-private partnership to be able to drive that specific initiative. And the intention, or rather expectation, is that if all goes well, Grenada would be having, yes, its first national hatchery, but would be in a position to be able to fill the gap of the shortage and reduce a critical element of our input bill, which is poultry. Right now, it may not be able to, in its initial stage, fulfill all the demands that is required. However, the intention is once we have this national hatchery, we can then take it to the next level in terms of what it needs to be. The other area that we probably want to talk about is being able to address the question of pre-delasting. And the budget spoke to it just by way of mention, but the speech rather spoke to it. But the minister will highlight what the government is doing. Now, as you are aware, we have launched our first ever pre-delasting unit. So we have
Yes.
transportation, right? Bikes. I think I saw a pickup. And by the way, just saw a little pick on if some people want the van, we have to sell it. We could give it to the Ridealong last unit. They could do with it and be able to help the farmers. But the point is, we are seeking by way of putting and implementing a specific policy initiative to
Right.
address this vexing issue of pre-delasting or pre-delasting in Grenada, Carriacou-Pitimati. It's a
Yes.
serious concern, and whether we want to accept it or not, the farmers themselves, you cannot leave it up to them alone to be able to resolve it. And so we have to get tougher in terms of how we are dealing with that. And we have started. This budget announcement will be a continuation as to how we build that out and the necessary investments that the state will make to help bolster our capacity there. And then finally, just by way of the surface, I would want to mention that post-burial, the assistant given is almost the quantum of the budget allocated for the Ministry of Agriculture to farmers and post burial. So, which is something that we see could be injected back into the economy, and particularly the fisher folk and farmers, those who, of course, were able to apply and submit the necessary information. We were able to inject back into their pockets and into their business a huge sum, even maybe surpassing that of the allocated budget for running the entire ministry. But let's go beyond that. The reformation of marketing board to IMEXA,
Yeah.
the benefit that is going to be derived from that. And you heard the minister on one of the prime minister's show, DMs with the PM, speaking to, yes, there were some delays in terms of that whole transition process, but it is necessary delays because we also want to get it right. What we are doing, just like the hatchery, is to already commence the PPP arrangement, private public partnership, to be able to say that from the standpoint of our export and import, central government may not have the necessary appetite nor the necessary resources within a given budget to be able to bolster our capacity to improve that situation. And therefore, the best way to go about it is to have that partnership between public and private to be able to drive it. The private sector is the main driver of economic development. The government's role is to create the enabling environment. And
Absolutely.
with that arrangement, we believe the injection or interest from the private sector in the agricultural sector through IMEXA is going to help us to achieve just that. Now, it is not at the stage where we actually have an investor as yet, as mentioned, and we are hopeful that we could get to that point in due course. But if this happens, the benefit to farmers is going to be tremendous because one of the number one challenges that we have in Grenada with the agriculture sector is this question of the guaranteed markets for a farmer.
Right.
Let's say I'm a farmer and I am farming. The last thing I want to be worried and shaky about is whether or not I will get sale for the produce that I'm producing.
Yes, true.
One, I can't consume all that field of melons for myself. I will have to sell it because I would want to get back. I did put some resources, time, etc., into planting it. And the last thing I want to be worried about as a farmer is whether or not I will get sale for my produce. And so, what that is going to do is to help once it is done right. And I'm saying once it is done right because we still need to speak to stakeholders. You have the farmers representative, you have different individuals within the context of stakeholders in the agricultural sector that has to be sold. We need to ensure, in principle, that they are all on board, they understand, and probably most importantly, they can have a stake in that entity so that it
Right.
can drive the productivity, particularly and the growth in the agricultural sector, and especially with food security. But that is the last element I would touch on. Again, I don't want to speak or preempt what the Minister of Agriculture would be saying in the budget on Thursday, the budget debates, but that is where we are thinking in terms of the overarching Vision 75 and goal.
Right, right, right. And we have a huge allocation for education, and
Yes,
that's important.
yes,
$179.6 million allocated to education.
yes.
We have
Right.
times to see new low. Let's kind of, I know you're not going to give the full aspect, but that's a lot of
Yes,
allocation.
is a lot of money. Relative to last year, it's down a couple million, maybe about 10 million or so. Stand to be corrected, but it's down from what we spent last year. Um, However, or budgeted last year. However, it is an allocation, and maybe it's a good opportunity to explain this. So, I saw a comment once on that post to say the money was there, and we just we didn't pay for some project or some kind of thing. So I saw a comment to that effect once on that post that was on my page,
Right.
and I just smiled because I still think, we need to understand what, when the national budget is announced, one, it's an estimation,
Right. Estimate of revenue.
right? It's said and it's called that estimates of revenue and
And
expenditure.
expenditures.
So it's an
Yes.
estimation. It
Right.
is not actual availability of cash to say we're going to get this. And two, it is an annual budget. It is not a rolling or monthly budget, which is just going to say, well, we'll collect 10 million in tax this month, and we have 5 million with recurrent expenditure, and 15 with capital expenditure.
Right.
So when you look at the budget, because it's an estimation, don't expect the money to just be sitting there. Remember, government could announce several programs, but if you do not make a move on that specific program, and you may see in the next budget cycle where it says, well, you didn't spend 20 million, it's not that you have the 20 million there to spend in this given ministry. That money could have been reallocated, repurposed in a different ministry, right?
Right.
So I think we need to understand that sometimes. But going back to the Ministry of Education, Junior, the truth is, where we are at with education, we have a lot more work to get done. And so I know the minister is doing a lot now in the context of teachers and addressing the situation there. And some of the things that we are dealing with now are long-standing and can aid specific to the students and the output of their performance ultimately. Because what we are trying to do is to empower Grenadians, particularly the young, but empower Grenadians to be able to have the capacity, for example, to be empowered to do oil and gas, to manage a sector like that in the future. So when we talk about first generation scholarships, the benefit and spin-off of that is to say that every household that does not have a university graduate, we're going to work with them to become a university graduate.
Right.
And the spin-off benefit of that is that more people are going to get educated at a higher level. One, it improves their quality of life because they can then earn a higher income in some
Yes.
instances, right? Not throwing cold water on skills, but degrees do help in some instances to have you on a higher income. And in sense, the smarter you become, the more productive I would want to say that you should be, right? So
Yeah.
the education helps to fill that void and that gap, but we need to do more of it. And the accessibility and the availability of education is what the minister and government is seeking to address in this context and this era, last 3 years and to now. And then we are going to go further, which is to say the centers of excellence that we are about to roll out, right, is going to help augment that important element of skills training. Yeah, the truth is, and we may talk about it a little later, these little programs, empower and so on, as good as the intention or the intent may have been, ultimately, we have had or seen about 20 solid years of those programs, and you saw what happened prior to when we came. The
Yes.
unemployment rate was extremely high, right? And so, as good as the intent were for most of those programs, the benefit was very limited in terms of what it was bringing back to the country. And
Right.
so, the need for us to refocus and restructure from the formal education system, the centers of excellence, and even from a youth ecosystem is important. And all of this is going to be lined up because when we talk about educating young people, we're not just doing it in a vacuum. We're not just saying, well, this man should just go and study business. And before you know it, 1,000 people who graduating out of a class of 2,000 studying business. All of them can start up a business at the same time. And so somebody must be thinking about teaching, somebody must be thinking about maybe becoming a police officer, etc., etc., so that you could be able to have a more balanced type of labor in terms of the supply of labor. So I don't want to get into too much details, but just to say that when we talk about the education and the ministry, there are aspects that we have ongoing. The regularization of teachers, we see that as an important element.
Right.
We see also the importance of ensuring the age, official school age is going to be up to 18, which we passed
18.
that law last year.
Yes.
And we are satisfied that we are seeing a quote unquote decrease, so to speak, in delinquency. While the ministry still have some work to do, Junior, and I will be the first to say, let's be honest, again, these policies are not automatic and will not transfer benefits immediately. But take, for example, free tuition, TAM CC. We are seeing a decrease in dropouts. We are
Right.
seeing an increase in the percentage for completing TAM CC as a result of this policy, almost immediately, which was good. But the point is, we see a series of benefits emerging now out of the education sector. Again, we still have some more work to do. We are mindful of that. If you talk to some principals, I'm certain they may have some recommendations for areas that we need to work on. And as a government, we've been listening. And I probably want to take this opportunity to commend Minister David Andrew to say to him that potentially, once all things remain equal, he could have the potential, barring that the Honorable Prime Minister doesn't have some kind of vision to put him in somewhere else to bring some additional transformation somewhere else. But
Right.
he could be potentially one of the best ministers of education in Grenada. And I think what we need to do is work towards ensuring that we support him. Because if Senator David Andrew succeeds, it is not the National Democratic Congress alone that may get some praise. Our students will be better for it. He
Right.
succeeds as a good minister. And so it goes back to our conversation earlier on about how leaders empower and build other leaders. And Prime Minister is very good at doing that. But the Ministry of Education, Junior, just to say, is on the right path. We still have room for improvement, as mentioned, but we are doing the right things. And so the allocation is important to be able to fulfill the agenda. Again, you're going to hear Minister debating on that sometime next week.
Right. Absolutely. We got a caller on the line. Caller, you live. Where are you calling us from?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to your guests and
Yes.
your listeners. I'm calling from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, New York. Right ahead.
Yes. Mr. Redhead, I think representation is all about people. It's all about economics. And in a Grenada situation, is the largest part of our population in the south of the island, or the larger part of the population is other places? Why am I raising that? Under the question of NDC being a people-centered government and the question of change and transformation, why is it that over $44 million recurrent is being spent on the tourism? And if you add agriculture and the marine, it's only 25 million. Almost twice time is spent on tourism. We see, however, that on the initiatives and capital, there's a little bit more being spent on the agriculture and marine, and that's very good. That's very good. But on the question of tourism, why is it that the tour operators are not contributing to our sites and its development and its maintenance and its enhancement? Why is it the government is spending all of the money to do those things? How should I put it? That lopsided management needs to be addressed. The government is investing in the fort, and you have two operators, large companies in Grenada, who organize the tour, they provide a service, but they're not contributing, as far as I know, 1 black cent to the upkeep. of those places. That needs to be looked at. They are benefiting from tourism. But on the question of tourism, why is it that the expansion to community tourism is not looked at in other places like St. Andrew and St. Patrick, so that you have opportunities for the tourists to move around, for people who transport them to make money, and not all of the development to the south of the island, for example, the Heroes Park, for example. So the decision makers need to look at things with a different lens, not with a South St. George and Tongue of St. John's lens and believe that is Grenada. But there is another specific issue I need you to look at. Sometime in 2014, this little document that I read, page 94, it indicates in 4.1, there is a place in Grenada called Waltham in St. Mark. Identified there was some civil work for the construction of a landing jetty. It indicates 44 m. I could assume that means meters. It talks about slope and pavement. The quantity is 1. The priority is A. And identified is an approximate cost of 150 million yen for that project. Could you find out what has happened? And if there is a possibility that the fishermen who are suffering in Waltham with regard to bringing in the catch safely, can they be given the opportunity to have the benefit of having a jetty? It's been done in other countries, For example, in Denver, in Carrick, in St. Lucia,
Right.
you see a big development that took place, funding by Japanese. The document that I'm talking about is a document that came from the Japanese International Cooperation.
Yeah.
Let me get you the right name.
Colin, let's give him an opportunity to respond to your
Zika
comments.
is the name of the organization. So could you give us some enlightenment on that?
Right.
And probably at some time, you could get the data and let us know what happened. So
All right.
during 2025.
Right.
Sure. All right. Thanks very much for sharing it. So I probably will start off with the last point. Just to say that I am somewhat aware of this said project. However, I do not have any specific details as to what is the reason for the stall and that sort of thing. So I would not be able to comment on that directly. But it's something that we could look into. Probably if I get some info on it, I can speak to Senator Britton and maybe the CTO or somebody who may have the knowledge of it, and we could share that if necessary. The other point, which was the first point, I think is a good point, in the sense that it begs the question, Junior, the purpose of the Ministry of Tourism, right? Now, one would ask, why would tourism get more than agriculture? To put it simple, tourism is a bigger sector. Agriculture essentially deals with specific items and has a goal of providing the output, but tourism is aligned with the services sector and has, as the saying goes, it's everybody business. It has a wider stakeholder pool, and therefore you have hoteliers, airlines, taxi and tour operators. You have a number of different industries which help to make up ultimately the tourism sector, and so it is a much larger part of what is happening and what needs to happen. While there are some elements to collaborate, which you did allude to, but it's a much larger. That's one easy explanation. But your point is instructive. We also have the tourism authority, so it's something that we probably need to ensure that we look into, to ensure that we bolster so that it does more of the marketing, and not just marketing, but helping to, in a sense, promote Grenada as the destination of choice, period, and not having to force itself to make up stuff and so on, and that when guests arrive, that what they get is truly a Caribbean island type experience, as you just showed the Waterfall Junior. Yeah, it's in David. I never knew that existed. And so it's a good start to be able to continue marketing those things. And as mentioned, that's a plan.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Just to summarize, we're kind of above our allocated time,
Right.
and I know you also have obligations as well. An overall budget summary. We have the recurring revenue at 1.3 billion. We have the total grants at 37.6 billion. All of these documents that I'm sharing with you on screen are also going to be shared on the Ridealong Live. Any explanation, any one of the line items you wanted to get a little bit further into, just to explain briefly?
Yeah, well, probably what we can dive into because he spoke to it about capital expenditure. And I think this is no, we must accept that last year, Junior, our capital expenditure, I think well, not last year, but 2025, we're still not there as yet to get the final numbers, but we're around close. I think it was cut off. But we invested significantly in our capital expenditure, and it's a good indicator. So I'll just only use that one for now in terms of how well you are able to implement your capital program and projects. Now, government's implementation rate was significantly higher, albeit we had more to deal with. And the more is we had challenges. I can think about the project in St. John, for example, where the road and parts of the land ultimately collapsed and was slipping away, and the government had to intervene. So there would have been more expenditure in that regard from the capital side. But even
Right.
prior to that, the rate to which we were spending in from the capital expenditure side was extremely well. And it is always a good thing. It started well and it ended well. It's always a good thing when your spending on the capital side of your budget is up. It means, therefore, you are doing a lot more, which is going to help facilitate more economic activity in the country. So, for example, if you are constructing, let's say, a wall to have a road fixed, that is good because it means on the basis of transportation is going to help. If you're constructing and laying pipes, as we are doing now, that is
Right.
going to improve the quality of water, and you will see greater investments in various parts of the country now because you may have a more steady, predictable flow and sustained flow of water. And that is going to help you because it means the private sector interest to invest in a particular business, in a particular area in the country is going to be improved, and you're going to have more economic activities as a result because the government is improving the infrastructure. Again, going back to the point about creating the enabling environment. So it's a good thing, and it's something that we need to continue to encourage. So for the upcoming budget 2026, it is estimated at $496.5 million. And that's a large sum for capital expenditure. It means the government of Grenada is going to have a lot of construction projects ongoing for 2026. And our ability to be able to manage all of this is going to be put under the microscope. And this is why the Ministry of MIT is critical in this role. Their role essentially is to ensure that we remain on target in terms
Right.
of implementation. We say we have to start tomorrow and we have to finish next week, that we're on schedule. Any sort of bottlenecks, Ministry of MIT is going to intervene, raise this, cabinet is going to get the reports, etc., and they're going to be on the ball with that. Because the need for us to ensure that we maintain the high implementation rate with some of these capital projects is probably even more important than the project itself,
Right.
right? So that's going to be critical for us to achieve. And it's going to take a superhuman effort. As I mentioned earlier on, right now, Grenada is under construction, right? When we came in 2022, there were a lot of poor infrastructure throughout the length and breadth of the country. In my constituency, for example, one of the things that we ensured that we focus on was this element of flood mitigation. Now, I'm going to speak to that in the budget in terms of how the broader vision of the St. George Northeast, why I am doing what I am doing, why we are focusing on flood mitigation and the benefits that it's going to bring. Because if we reduce flooding, you are going to see more businesses investing in the constituency, because then you no longer have to deal with this element of flood by Tempe, by wherever else, and so on. You're going to see homeowners building in areas where you never had road because you're
Right.
now in that infrastructure. So it's important for us to look at it not in isolation, but interconnected. And it's all going to help. Probably something I need to touch on before I go, because I know we're running out of time, is that question of the Youth Empowerment Agency.
Yes.
Critical. So I want to spend some time talking about that, because I think from the government standpoint, when we came in, there were multiple programs all over the place. I'll give you a joke. I remember once, sitting in the ministry, and they say, "Well, we have management meeting," and when I saw the amount of people that walked in the room for management meeting, I thought it was a staff meeting, and so I said to myself, "No wonder why, generally, while you have one or two programs, but the thing wasn't really moving forward." So this was one area that we really had to look at and to reorganize, restructure. It did not mean that the people who were there just didn't have the capacity only, but it meant to Junior the structure, the ecosystem to which we were building the youth in that context, it was inefficient, right? And so we were able to address that. Now we are satisfied that the recommendation or the proposal that is being put forward of this agency is going to help drastically improve the ecosystem around the young people. One, we want to be able to improve our young people to lead. Two, to earn. And three, to participate. The reason why we pick these three areas is that when you look at the issue of youth unemployment, young people's biggest challenge is that if they finish school, they come out of school, etc., they can't find work. How do we fill that gap to allow them to earn an income, being as young as they may be coming out, and not, in a sense, having to um, say, well, they had to go and hustle to make a little money, to do something just to be able to pursue their education, higher education, etc. How do we organize that this becomes almost automatic? And
Yes.
and it's not something by guess, or you have to have some link in somebody business place to get a little job, and so how do we organize that? So earning has two components. You have the entrepreneurship side of it, and you definitely have the individual who wants to be a good employee, who wants to learn and work his or her way up through the ranks in different organizations. When you talk about lead, you are talking about leadership. Part in the challenge that we have right now is that even us, being in politics, ask some of the long-standing politicians, ask the former prime minister, where did he go to learn leadership? He had to learn it on the job, right? Essentially, he wasn't just a natural born leader, and you have this, this magic and so on. That doesn't exist, because everything you do in life, you need to learn it. You didn't born with the knowledge as a baby. You had to learn your way up. And so when we talk about ensuring that the future is better off, one of the deficits that we have, and we see it in Caribbean politics, is leadership, right? Leadership of not knowing when to come off, not knowing when to pass the baton, not knowing when to empower others within your own organization to rise to the table and support them genuinely, not just the fact that you want them to do something. And so we need to create that environment or that hub where we can build our future leaders, not just in politics, but in business, private sector, not just there also, but in community, right? That kind of thing, NGOs, those movements, to ensure that the quality of leaders that we have in the future is much better than what we are able to produce. And so that is critical. And then finally, the last area is to participate. It is critical that we look at every young citizen as someone who must be a productive citizen and have something to contribute to society. I personally do not accept that a young man must just sit on the block all day and expect to live. If that is how you envision your life to run, then you're dreaming.
Right.
You have to do something serious. You have to contribute, right? Whether you have a child, whether you have children, whether you don't have, the point is you have to be able to take care of yourself.
True.
Because if you live your life, let's say you're 21 and you spend 10 years on the block, you'll be 31 after that 10 years. You don't have no pension. Chances are you was living by a mother or some kind of thing. She ready to kick you out because you're a big man, you're smoking, you're liming, you ain't contributing, you can't pay a bill in the house, that kind of thing. In other words, that can't take you anywhere. And so the need for people to participate in the economy, voluntarily is important. But sometimes, Junior, the challenge is that they do not have the right guidance and direction. So, for example, at age 18, what is stopping a young person from going and pursue to get their driver's license? Absolutely nothing than just the thought of somebody saying, well, you're just turned 18, so you have to wait, right? A
Right.
bank account. Some people are over 30 years and they have a bank account. Some people way older than that and they have a bank account. As simple thing as that, right? So, in terms of participating in the economy, just from a simplistic standpoint, these elements need to be given to the young people so that they can be able to utilize them and become productive citizens. And that is the basis to which we see youth development going forward. It is no longer just by virtue of a program, name, ants, back, fly, whatever it is, because these things by themselves is not enough to take us forward. And it's not me saying that, but we have actual evidence of the last 30 years or so where we've been spending close to $30 million on a former program. I even stopped calling it. And we were not getting sufficient in terms of the output from that program. And so we want to move from just these ad hoc programs all over the place to an organized structure of youth development with a central focus on an ecosystem as to how we drive that out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Guys, you're watching Ride Along Live, and as I said, a sort of in-depth look at the budget, the allocation of revenue and expenditure. But of course, on Thursday, we're going to hear both the opposition response and on the individual MPs speaking on their portfolio on the budget. So that's going to be interesting to listen to on Thursday. I want you guys to tune in. We short for time, MP Ron Redhead. Any last thing we're gonna shout out? You wanna push in?
So we would like to extend our sympathies to Miss Inez Robinson. She is the mother, or was the mother of Brother Randall Robinson. He is the deputy chairman of the National Democratic Congress, and tonight is the third night. I am supposed to be there because she's also a constituent of mine. And I am trying my best to ensure that I remain focused so that we stick to the time so that I can get there. So I would like to extend this publicly, although we have done so, on behalf of the Honorable Prime Minister and political leader of the NDC and the executive body, the General Secretary, the Chair, Senator Gloria and Honorable Andy Williams. We extend our deepest condolences to the Robinson family on their loss, and we ask for the nation's continued prayers and to be with them in this moment of sadness and grief.
Yes, thank you so much, MP Ron Redhead, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you so much. And also, I say thanks for the support, man. I've seen you. I saw you on the app. You're very active as well.
Yes, man. Yes, man.
You don't only talk the talk, but you walk the walk. I appreciate that.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much. Yeah, man. Yeah, that was MP Ron Redhead here chatting with us on a little insight on the budget. But of course, remember guys, on this Thursday, we have the opposition response, which is very important. And I want you guys to listen because there's always, there should always be a contrast. And I'm going to be listening to the opposition respond. I did get a chance to listen to the presentation, and I'm also interested to hear the individual MPs speak about the allocation for their particular ministry. So that will be interesting to listen to as well. It's this Sunday on Ridealong. Is going to be here on the platform, GIS, and a few other platforms as well. Let's take a quick commercial break. When I come back, I got some final closing word. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Are you a progressive young leader, a proactive emerging executive, a rising professional? Then you need appropriate cover for your vehicle. Introducing the Pro Motor Plan from Beacon. Car insurance that includes free loss of use, windscreen cover up to $3,500, free special perils, free accident forgiveness. Get Beacon's Pro Motor Plan today. Don't procrastinate. Call Beacon today at 440-4447 or visit beacongrenada.com.
The sun is hot, the breeze is slow. I need a ride. Where do I go? Ride, go, yeah. That's the name. Island roads will never feel the same. Tap the app, just one click, hopping fast. It's real quick. Ride, go. Where do you wanna go? To the beach, to the street, let the island flow. Ride, go. The good vibe show, fastest growing ride. Everybody know. Ride, go. Where do you wanna go? To the beach, to the street, let the island flow. Ride, go. Let the good vibe show, fastest growing ride. Everybody know.
Where do you want to go?
Again, one and all, thank you for watching and thank you for being a part of our program here, Ride Along Live. Don't forget, Ride Along Live is where all information is shared, and it's your platform, your opportunity to share your voice as well. Tomorrow, guys, we have an interesting story to tell. Yeah, we have an interesting story to tell on the platform. I want you guys to join us for that. And, you know, someone messaged me earlier and they was talking about, in my introduction, speaking about the leaders who just don't know when to leave. So someone said, what could we do to fix that going forward? So I'm interested to find out what you guys think about that. What do you think could be done to build leaders that don't feel that they should be elected leaders for life? Tell me, put it in the chat. We'll chat about it and we'll comment in the caption, in the comment section, all right? Thanks again for watching. Thanks for being a part of our program, Ride Along Live. I'll catch you guys again tomorrow. Good night.
The sun is hot, the breeze is low. I need a ride. Where do I go? Ride, go, yeah. That's the name. Island roads will never feel the same. Tap the app, just one click, hopping fast. It's real quick. Right, go. Where do you wanna go? To the beach, to the street, let the island flow. Right, go. Let the good vibe show, fastest growing ride. Everybody know.
Tuk Tuk now available on Ride Go. Book now.